Hi everyone, this is Elena Kraus and welcome to another Hue Arts card video. Today, for today's card, I'll be using the Lemonade Message wood mount stamp along with the Fresh Citrus bold prints. So here's a little close-up of the stamp and the bold prints. Also, I will be using the square infinity dies and the new black MISTI or MISTI original tool. So let's get started. First, what we'll do, I have already pre-cut my cardstock for the panels and we'll be using the peach black cardstock and the fresh citrus bold prints. I will be using my MISTI to stamp the background onto the black cardstock. So I'm removing the foam mat since I'm using a rubber stamp. And I'll add a little bit adhesive on back of my panel that I will stamp on. So if when I stamp twice over it, it doesn't move. So we have the image stamp exactly on the same spot both times. So I'm using the embossing and watermark ink to ink up my stamp. Then I'll close the door of the MISTI. I placed a piece, another foam mat under the door so it's easier to ink up the stamp. So it gives us a little bit more flat surface. Just press evenly across the entire stamp and I repeat it again. Since this is a larger stamp, I like to stamp it a couple times to make sure that I have nice coverage and every part of that cardstock is covered with the image. So I think this stamped pretty nicely. I'll remove it from my MISTI tool and then I will apply the ultra fine clear embossing powder. I have it in a container here since I use this embossing powder quite often. So when we emboss this one, it will give us nice textured background where you can see that citrus print. However, it won't distract the card, the overall image from the focal point, which will be our message. So next, I will stamp the image. I will stamp the lemonade message using the Intens-ified black ink onto Dove white cardstock. So since I had two pieces of cardstock, I decided to stamp it twice, and in this moment I decided to make two cards at once. This exactly the same design, and it goes very fast when you do another one. Since I already had also the bold print stamps still in my MISTI tool, I didn't really need to do much work to stamp the second card. So I'm stamping that a couple times. Also, I'll remove it from the MISTI, close the MISTI, put it away, and then apply that ultra fine clear embossing powder. So I'll shake off the excess and I'll just use my heat tool to melt that embossing powder. So the second panel is done. I will put it aside, and next what I'll do is cut the squares using the square infinity dies from the Dove white cardstock, the panels that we stamped the messages on. Also is die cut coordinating mats using the Vellum layering paper. And now what I'm doing is coloring those lemons on the images. I'm using just few yellow colors, alcohol-based markers. You can use any coloring medium of your choice. I'm just quickly coloring those. I used 3 shades of yellow, light, medium, and dark. You can use any number, or you can just number of colors, or you can just use one color. I just wanted to give a little bit more depth to the images. Those are very tiny images, so it's very easy to color them. So now they're done, and I picked out my Lemon Drop Reactive ink, and I'm using a blending brush just to apply a little bit ink around the edges of those squares, a little bit to soften those the white cardstock and the white edges. Since we're gonna add this onto a black mat, onto a black panel, the white was standing out quite a bit, so I decided to apply yellow to the edges of that sentiment. Next, I'm adding some fun foam, not fun foam, but foam tape, or you can use fun foam too, and adhering to the vellum panels. Now we can create our card bases. I'm using the Canary cardstock, cutting one sheet in half since we're doing 2 cards, and then trimming down the black embossed panels to 4 by 5¼ So now we can assemble our cards. Before we go to assembly, I'm just scoring my card bases at 4¼ I'm creating side folded cards. You can do top folding if you want. Next, I'm using some fun foam to adhere the panel onto the card bases. I'm using the Hues Arts Precision Liquid Glue. I like using liquid glue because it gives me a little bit more time to maneuver that panel to make sure that it's straight and it's nicely spaced onto the card base. So we have both card bases here. Next, I'll adhere the message onto the card. Again, I'm using the liquid glue, and I'm adding some sunset Hues enamel dots to finish it off. So we're going to repeat the same process for the second card, exactly the same. I'll add the liquid glue on the back of the message. Make sure it's nice and straight, adding the enamel dots, and we're finished with the cards. So let's take a little bit of a closer look. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos and inspirations from Hues Arts. Thanks for watching. Bye!